Hi everybody, welcome to theCUBE special coverage of IBMThink 2025. We're here in Boston, inside the analyst room, and I'm super excited to have Magesh here, who's the Chief Data and AI Officer at Pepsi. This is going to be an amazing case study, and he's joined by Shobhit from IBM, who's Head of Data and AI at IBM Consulting. Shobhit, good to see you again. Magesh, great to meet you first time on theCUBE. Thank you for
Fantastic, Dave.
Time.
Thanks for having me as well. Thanks to theCUBE as well for having us at PepsiCo.
So Pepsi, Shobhit was saying, look, think of Pepsi as a data and AI company. I'm like, well, wait a minute, hold on a second. What are you talking about? But he's right. He just happened to be in a business that serves consumers with some amazing products. So how do you think about Pepsi?
You know, we are a fantastic consumer company, right? On a daily basis, we serve 1.4 billion smiles, which means there's 1.4 billion consumers and consumer products on a daily basis. So we are a company that brings smiles to all consumers. And oh, by the way, data and AI enriches how we get those smiles out to consumers on a daily basis. So that's kind of how we think about us. Now, we've been in this space from a data enrichment and even what we consider as traditional AI for a little more than a decade. So it's not something that's new to us. For us, it's a continuation of this journey.
You know, I was just talking to some friends from Heineken, and they were basically telling about their latest data journey, and it started in 2019. I'm like, oh, okay, that was before the AI heard around the world. But so, you know, technology comes and technology goes, as you know. So you, as you point out, you were on this journey, you know, well before the whole ChatGPT moment. So I'm sure you faced many data challenges. My understanding is you've got 60 petabytes of data, is that right? Growing at 2x
every year?
A year?
Every year, yeah.
Okay, so irrespective of whether it was machine learning or now Gen AI, you had a data challenge initially. So maybe we can go back and sort of think about and share with the audience how you were approaching that data challenge. What were the drivers that were leading you to, you know, where you are today?
See, you've got to start with the end in mind. Right? What are you really trying to do? And what you're trying to do is you're trying to drive high amount of products or the right products for the consumers for the right occasions. And you want to make sure those products are available to them. That's one. What you also want to do is you want to drive an efficient, lean, flexible supply chain. That's two. Third is you want to make sure that from your transportation logistics perspective, we've got the second largest fleet in the United States. We're making sure that is driving those products and those things, those delight our customers over to them very quickly. So how do you make all of this possible continuously on a daily basis? So that's what we try to do. So when you go back to kind of how we're set up, what we call is within the technology landscape, we've got 2,400 applications. And on top of that, we've got a huge OT landscape. Operational technology landscape. That is our manufacturing, our warehousing, and our shop floors. How do you get your data from all of these applications that's humming and running, what we call as make, move, sell, and close on a daily basis, out to your data lake, out to the cloud, into those applications that are applications of insights and applications of decision making that actually power the front lines of our organization. Right. So that ability for us to move this back-end data to the front end of the business and then drive decision-making the front end is kind of where this art and science is really for us.
So my question to you is, so how unique is this? How did you, obviously the scale is unique, but are there patterns in other industries or similar industries that you see that you can share with us?
Absolutely. So like data is gold for you, right? So we quite often engage with C-suites looking at data as a corporate asset, and how do you start thinking about monetizing that for competitive advantage, right? Within IBM, we very strongly believe that the enterprise data has not made its way inside of the AI models quite yet, right? 99%, as Arvind mentioned,
we heard that from Arvind today,
gotten to AI models yet. So I think that's the competitive advantage that you would get. So it's like hiring somebody from the outside. Everybody has access to great talent. We're here in Boston, say MIT, Harvard, you have some amazing talent. And you would expect that that person who's coming in from the outside has the world's knowledge across all the different, they could have PhDs in English, math, physics, and whatnot, right? But when they come and join PepsiCo, they become a PepsiCo employee, You go through an onboarding process. You explain to them how things are done in the Pepsi way. You give them access to a lot of different data sets back end. We control that. And then over time, you fully monitor them for how they're performing, and you give them the right training and coaching. And that's the journey every employee has. Now, when you start to think about this as a digital employee, an AI employee, you're going through the same. You're procuring agents. You're trying to make sure you embed the processes and the enterprise data inside of them, and then you continuously monitor and do performance reviews for them, and then you eventually exit them out of the company, right? So the whole life cycle of agents and employees, all of that requires a lot of data. You need to explain to them how things uniquely happen inside of the organization, and we see this across most of the Fortune 100, 200 companies that we work with, and a lot of the clients are the size of Pepsi.
So you've been on this journey for a while. I'm interested in sort of, let's cut to the chase here with AI, right? So the state of the art prior to, the end of 2022, early 2023 was you put data in a cloud data warehouse, separate compute from storage, break down the silos. Maybe you put it all in one place. Maybe you federate the data. But generally speaking, it's a historical system of analytical record. Yeah. Now you're moving to a world that is increasingly real time. You mentioned your supply chain. We're moving from a world that's, hard-coded, pretty much static processes and microservices to one that is this real-time representation of an enterprise, where processes maybe not hard-coded, they're maybe more malleable. And of course, at the root of that is data. Now, we may not be there yet. Maybe it's a little bit futuristic, but I think that's the North Star that you're heading toward. So, I wonder if you could talk about the data stack. How do you architect that such that you can accommodate such a radical change in the way applications are being developed?
So, really good question. And, radical change on the front lines, right, for our business requires radical change on how we re-architect. And the moment you asked about architecture, kind of warmed my heart. I love architecture. So, let me talk about kind of as is, or where we've come from. Great. And where we're going to.
Awesome.
So where we're coming from is a legacy data warehouse. Yeah. 8 different data lakes that we know of. And kind of, I would call us data puddles all over the place. Now, PepsiCo, of course, is a lot, big data company. However, that's kind of the landscape we're coming from. Where we're going to, significant investment, really one data lake, completely chosen, a modern data like platform and capability, medallion architecture, right? In terms of how you refine the data from landed bronze, silver, gold, and then how do you make sure that the gold data is truly pristine to be used for your analytical and your AI apps? In that framework, we also have governance, cataloging, lineage management, and the ability for us to really synthesize the relationships. So think about the world where I have sustainability data. So now I'm looking at a world where I have sustainability KPIs, what we call as golden KPIs, golden reports, and golden data. Yeah. One set for the entire company. Not different formulas, not different KPIs that's used by different parts of the company. Remember, we're 320,000 people strong. So we love our federation, we love our independence, we love to operate in 200 countries the way we want to operate in 200 countries. Yeah. So the ability for PepsiCo to go through this process where we're refining the data sets, providing these golden reports, golden KPIs, golden data sets for people to consume still in a federated, independent manner makes massive, massive difference. So it's not only about this data pipeline, but it's also the manners in which you consume this data. So let me also talk about kind of the consumption piece as well, right? So we've got, Power BI, Tableau, primary source of reporting. Yeah. We're going from 27,000 reports to what we would consider as 50 AI for BI consoles in the next 2 years. Radical shift. Yeah. So you want to make sure that AI for BI is operating in what I call as freedom within a framework. You want to give freedom to everybody that they can ask any questions they want to.
Self-serve.
But within a framework. The problem is, in the past, we've not put frameworks. We've just let people just go off and create reports. So in that process, we see 80 to 90% of the reports having almost zero to no usage.
Yeah.
So, and then you just create the reporting sprawl, application sprawl. That's how tech debt gets created. So you've got to have freedom within a framework.
It also, what you're describing, it eliminates when you in a meeting and say, well, where does data come from? I have different data,
Yeah.
and you spend the first half
Just
hour of the
arguing on the
meeting
data. Whose data? Who's source of truth?
Oftentimes the meeting ends, and you say, all right, we got to get the data right, then we'll meet
Yeah.
again. I mean, you see this
And
challenge.
if you look at the whole spectrum that Magesh laid out, you have a lot of data that was historically on-prem.
Yeah.
We need to prepare AI for data for the AI, but it's also the yin yang. You can leverage AI in helping with your data transformations as well. So within IBM Consulting, for example, we've built this whole modern data accelerators that help us understand, do discovery of what data is on-prem. And today you have about 42% of the data on-prem has been successfully moved over to the cloud.
Harmonized, cataloged,
yeah.
lineage managed, 42, and then expectations by end of next year will be 90%.
90%, right? So the whole transformation that's happening, we're leveraging a series of some automation, some Gen AI across the path. So you create a whole automated pipeline that accelerates the time to value. So the data is then ready for consumption downstream for more AI models and so on and so forth, right? So there's a lot that goes in with this whole transformation. If you were doing this 2 years back, we wouldn't have all the tools to accelerate this journey.
Right.
But today, in today's world, we have the right set of tools. And then when you start looking at how do you figure out the different levels of what is gold and what KPIs to matter, you start looking at a whole AI strategy. Pepsi has done an incredible job at building a true north of what are the big bets that we're going to go after. 100 plus POCs like every other major company would have done, but they're very, very focused on here are the 3-4 different value unlocks. That'll be an insane amount of value to be delivered. And if you reverse engineer from that, what kind of data sets is needed to drive the decision, to do that, what's the supporting data sets that are needed, and so on and so forth, right?
But it sounds like you've done, the key is a key, you've done the hard work to harmonize that data,
Yeah.
which is non-trivial. How difficult was that? Was it a lot of human labor, data pipeline, mechanics? Were you able to use automation to streamline that? How did you get from the as is to the where you're going in the to be?
In a large company like PepsiCo,
Very large.
first thing you need is one, you need the vision, and then you need the political will, and then
Yes.
to a large extent you kind of need tops-down mandate.
Right.
And in this case, tops-down mandate is really from our CEO, Ramon Laguarta, and I report to the Chief Strategy and Transformation Officer. Her name is Athena Canoria. That level of tops-down mandate / vision in the organization is critical. But of course, things that really grease the skids is money.
Yeah.
So then once you have the vision, once you have the tops-down mandate, the political will in the organization, the value story, right? We're now prioritizing across 28 key initiatives in the company.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you really go after the value story for these 28? But then how do you also deprioritize the things that we think is being operated subpar?
Yeah.
And thereby now, if you really want to make yourself a data and AI company, you have focused attention on the priorities, you put money behind it, and in this case, you have one foundation, what we call as the EDF, Enterprise Data Foundation. We've got 2,000 plus amazing people and
Yes.
partners,
Thank
such as
you.
Shobhit and others, really helping us with this data foundation. Then you start seeing the value unlock, right? So for a period of time, is it painful? Absolutely yes, because you're telling no to a lot of people,
Yeah.
and you're moving everybody in this one path. But the moment people start moving this one path, you start seeing 1, 2, 3 wins. For example, integrated business planning, IBP. We started seeing wins in Turkey, in France. Mosaic, which is really a financial cockpit where we do cash flow forecasting. We started seeing wins in many markets. Automatically, we started seeing the
Convergence,
population and the convergence starting to happen, right? You've got to see wins.
Penguins off the iceberg first
And,
thing it goes.
Yes.
And Dave, I'll just highlight one other thing that I think Pepsi is doing incredibly well, is all the governance around this, both on the data side and the AI side, right? So if you're doing AI for BI, you lose your end audience, the trust that they're building, if you get one data point incorrect. So if you think about all the data is in one EDF now, and you're asking natural language questions, right? Going from natural language to a SQL statement to then fetching the data and bringing it back. The incredible thing here is Pepsi has years of data of usage patterns and how humans that were writing these SQL statements, how do they optimize it? So for example, if you have a seller in Texas and says, hey, I want to have sales show me sales for Paris. We know that the context is that the seller has access to only Texas territory. Hence, we're talking about Paris, Texas. We ain't talking about Paris and France, right? So the bringing in that context to improve the accuracy of getting that data is amazing. Yes, yes. So you can unlock those kind of things that a generic model can't. So they've done a really good job at the data catalog, leveraging the past experience of how humans have done this in the past, and then driving that AI to BI. So you start to reduce those thousands of reports.
So many questions, but let's talk about the value North Star. I mean, if we can convene in, say, 12 or 18 months, what are those tangible business outcomes that would let you know that your program at PepsiCo was working as intended?
So
those KPIs that you talked about.
And you're right. I work for the 120,000 men and women who are on our front lines every day.
Yeah.
Right? That's my job, that's my mission. And why? Because they're out there in the field selling to our customers, engaging with the consumers, and really operating supply chain at scale, and then getting, doing transportation logistics to get the products to the right place. So we work for them. And so when you talk about value unlocks, I'll give you a few examples. We launched almost 6.5 months back the Gatorade AI campaign, and also on our Gatorade.com, we've launched the whole capability associated with you can actually go design your own bottles. And by the way, it's a $1 billion plus.
Shobhit was showing me the demo. It's amazing.
I wish I got the bottle, but it's really cool bottles, right? So the unbelievable reception we've seen for that, because we were one of the first in the market to show the fact that it's possible, but it's possible at scale, and it's possible for consumers, and we can actually drive top line revenue out of it. Think about it, right? We're seeing 165% uplift in terms of sales. We're seeing a doubling in terms of brand loyalty and Gatorade loyalty. We're seeing 113,000 unique designs that have been created as a part of this process. And then we start seeing one very important thing. Athletes, who are the core of the brand, all of us are athletes, by the way,
Tech athletes,
but I'm sure we all do our own thing, right? I do yoga, I'm sure whatever, right? So we all want to now engage with the brand in a very differentiated way, but also in a very personalized way. That's just one example, right? And we're doing the same thing in spaces like marketing, in supply chain, where we're now really unlocking digital twin. We talked about in the IBM conference where, procurement's a big unlock in terms of what IBM's done.
Yes.
We're now looking at what does a procurement AI brain look like for us? And then how do we unlock value from there by actually having all of our buyers and our suppliers engage in one space? So these are all huge unlocks that can drive not only productivity, as has been talked about quite a bit, but also top line growth as well for the company.
And these are part of the 28 prioritized use cases that are sounds like a combination of obviously productivity value unlocks, but also revenue generation.
Yes.
Brand loyalty, real value drivers for the organization.
And Dave, the way Pepsi has attacked this problem, right? If you centralize a platform, then you can democratize innovation everywhere, right? So we don't use the terms center of excellence because that gives you the impression that excellence happens only in the center. Pepsi thinks of it as the AI acceleration team, right? Because you're enabling everybody else in the organization. And if you do this on a good platform that scales, cases like Gatorade, right? If you're using a platform, you're able to govern and audit and control and drive security. Because you can imagine somebody creating an image on a website, it could go viral if it's not for the wrong reasons and stuff, right? So you have to have all these layers of protection. Now here's the kicker, right? If you are a marketing team, a legal team, an R&D team, if all of them start to go work with 1,000 different vendors and it's a wild, wild west, then we're not able to guarantee the brand loyalty and what the brand stands for, right? But if you're leveraging accelerators, in this case, Pepsi has this amazing platform that they've built. If you're leveraging the platform, your time to value, you come up with an idea and you're able to get to market before Christmas because you have all those checks and balances already baked into the platform itself.
Your governance at scale is critical. We can't repeat what happened, with the big data days where everybody was kind of
Yes.
off doing their own thing, and then people realized, well, none of this is governed, and/or, hey, we're going to bolt governance on as an
Yes.
afterthought,
Yes.
and the security, it just doesn't work, it doesn't
No.
scale. So you had to design that in up front, didn't you?
Absolutely. And the good thing is that this is a team sport, right? And everybody, right? I've got a lot of amazing partners in the company, right? So from InfoSec to infrastructure operations to cloud team,
Yeah.
to the data analytics AI team, to the entire application team. It's a team sport. Plus what we call as transformational leaders, right? Leaders from running finance transformation, supply chain transformation, a commercial consumer transformation, HR transformation.
Yeah.
This is a team sport, and that's kind of how we've come together as really one team to drive this. But the advantage that the team has is it's also how do we drive it for consumption as one team, but how do we also drive it as one team with centralized platform capabilities, right? And so that's data platforms, AI platforms, cloud platforms, all kind of operating at scale. And IBM's been a huge partner for us,
Thank you.
and as
Thanks so
we've
much,
expanded these kind of platform capabilities.
What organizational deltas have you had to either architect or address? I was interviewing Mark Benioff the other day, and he had just written an article in the Wall Street Journal saying, I'm the last generation of CEOs that will be managing human-only employees and workers, because we're going to be hundreds of thousands of agents. And so you begin to think about, okay, well, how does that change, how I actually manage, the organization? What have you learned from this journey so far in terms of just organizational structures, skills, management changes that you've had to deploy?
So I'll start off by sharing. First is, let's talk about operating model. Mm-hmm. And, we're very fortunate, that we're now moving to an operating model that we think should be the operating model of the future. So Athena Kanoria, our Chief Strategy and Transformation Officer, really started moving into this model where it's what we call as capability teams, transformation teams, business teams, all under one roof. So now you can prioritize, you can focus, you can drive outcomes. And it's not like, I was in IT, let me find out what marketing wants to do, and then we'll kind of play ping pong and figure out how we get the right finances. Yes. It's a huge challenge. No, if you've got all these groups in one organization, you can prioritize, you can focus, and you can get to direct execution because you know where the value is coming from. That I think is one huge unlock. It's very, very difficult. So I got to give a lot of kudos to the leadership team for really moving us in this direction. Very painful, but that's what we've done the last year and a half. Second piece, if I would call it right, is how do you move end-to-end? PepsiCo end-to-end processes. PepsiCo is a relationship-based company. We love our consumers. Yeah. We love the bodega store down the street. We want to create that heartfelt relationship. That's how we are as well internally operating within the company. But now, how do you still get end-to-end process working in the company? So, for example, source to pay. That's hard because you have to say no to a lot of people that have been used to doing the way they've been used to doing in respective markets. So saying no and then really moving everybody into centralized process streamlining, very difficult. That's a journey that we're in, and we're choosing the top 6-7 processes that we want to go and automate end to end. Third is, how do you really start moving into a persona-centric approach?
Yes.
This is something that I think across the board, most enterprises have not done a great job. Mm-hmm. Our organizational tools and capability shows up on the front line. No. What is needed for the front line needs to be how you create capabilities, right, in your organization, how your organization should be or reorganized as well. That's not how we do it. So persona-centric approach is something that we are now fundamentally rethinking because in an AI world, personas matter. The warehouse operator, how does the day in the life for him matter? Someone who is selling Gatorade in the field, what's the day in the life? And all the tools, all the capabilities, all the processes should be in service of him or her and what they do on their job. So those are, I would say, the big unlocks. The last one, I would say the fourth one, is really the digital backbone. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Trying to get to this centralized, governed, managed digital backbone that becomes a platform that everyone can build on and use we've had to say a lot of no's before we're starting to say, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
So,
And we have the backbone to do it, to create these personalized workflows.
And we're seeing the same exact thing in our own business too, right? In IBM Consulting, we are 160,000 people globally, and each one of them is a very different persona. If I'm working with a large bank, they will have different kind of roles that we're staffing versus in a healthcare, and they have different roles from marketing to procurement to finance to software development and whatnot, right? So we have this 160,000 people who want to do their job every day, and they're looking for acceleration in the way they deliver, right? So we're on this mission of creating 10x agents to help 160,000. That's 1.6 million agents that we're on a path to create, right? So I look at myself as the leader who's growing in a world where for every employee, team member, we would have 10x more assistants and agents. And the aha moment here is when we ask one of our team members to go do finance procurement for a client, we're expecting that person will have the assistants and agents that are tailored to the way they do their day-to-day work today. We're not trying to force a new method of doing it, right? You can't have a set of brilliant kids go overseas and go look at how things are done and 5 days later tell you how to do your job better. Does not scale, right? So we need to get to a point where the end user has a particular way how they trust, because they're held accountable for the outcome they're generating. So they have built a trust mechanism of saying, when I'm asked to do X, here's how I get to it, and I know that I'm validating it and the answer is correct. Mm-hmm. So wherever we're infusing surgically AI into it, that has to play to the strengths of that particular individual. So empowering the individual in their particular workflow, the way they do things, AI should be as invisible as possible to then 10x accelerate them.
Okay, last question. Let's say we're at Think 2026, a year from now. What do you want to be able to say, Magesh, that you cannot say today?
Truly AI at scale, right? And for what we mean by that is all of the business use cases now really bearing fruit, right? We've invested, we've planted the seeds, we've conditioned the soil, and now the plants are starting to grow. Mm. And then they start flowering. And then hopefully at that point in time, we can start smelling the roses, right? So across different parts of our business, whether it's make, move, sell, close, we want to tell stories, but we want to tell big stories, huge value-added stories. And that's told by the 120,000 men and women who are in the front lines of our business. And they're seeing the outcomes for themselves that, one, AI is not scary, but it's very real. Two is we've democratized knowledge. We've democratized AI. And then now the warehouse AI supervisor of the future, or the sales rep, AI sales rep of the future, they're now having something very powerful in their pocket that is now helping them drive and curate their entire day. So think about somebody who's a sales rep, start their mornings very early, 4 a.m. in the morning. Yeah. They get home very late. And they're traversing multiple different routes, going to multiple different stores. It's a challenging job. And then they have to take these products and put them on the shelf, rack and stack. So for them to be able to now go back home 2 hours quicker so they can see their loved ones, spend time with the family, that I think is a very positive side of what we could really be unlocking.
That's the best KPI I've heard all week. Shobhit, your thoughts?
I'm on a very similar note, and Magesh and I share this quite a bit, that both of us are very focused on people and lives and smiles and what it means to people. So I would love to come back where everybody has a Iron Man suit on, right? Where you have these superpowers where it's just amplifying what you're really good at, right? So you want to get to a point where you are doing things 10x faster and you're unlocking time in your day so you can go focus more on families and be able to get the smiles in the evening back. So I think we're getting to that point.
Gentlemen, thank you both for spending some time here. Think 2025, really appreciate you coming on theCUBE.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks so much.
Really appreciate having us.
All right, and thank you for watching. Keep it right there. We are back right after this short break from theCUBE at Think 2025. We're going to move over to theCUBE studio. This is Dave Vellante. Right back.